It's real life. We break down state and federal issues, showing how policy shapes everyday Americans. Engaged, balanced, and informative. That's our promise. I'm your host, Mikkel Jenkins.
And this is Muhammad Alec chiming in without a camera this time around. So I'm sorry you guys can't see my face, but I'm sure Mikkel will take gladly all of the video attention for you guys.
Yes, we have a high octane episode for you guys today. We have a lot going on, and I'm sure you have all been very plugged into what's been going on state and federally. We're going to start first with the looming government shutdown. This is going to be the second government shutdown of Trump's second administration. So the U.S. is barreling towards a shutdown deadline on Friday, January 30th, with no deal in sight as Senate Democrats led by Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, which I actually commend him for this a bit. I know he was getting flack it's mentioning that there were a few senators that would vote for this DHS funding bill.
Probably
And
Fetterman. I hate that guy.
actually, no. So Fetterman has actually come out. He actually wants Kristi Noem to be impeached. This was just recently.
I saw that tweet, but I
So yeah,
wonder if
he's
that's going to
he's.
resort in him also voting against the
I
bill.
think it. I think it definitely will. Mark Warner. I believe he is another Republican. He is also voting against the bill, basically. And
Yeah.
this standoff is over the Department of Homeland Security DHS funding, which, if our listeners do not know, DHS ICE is underneath DHS. So any funding that DHS gets, it can be siphoned for ICE. So then, in a private Senate Democratic caucus meeting and subsequent statements from Schumer, have confirmed that Democrats have the votes to block the DHS appropriations bill, part of a broader package allocating approximately 64.4 billion to DHS, including roughly 10 billion for immigration and customs enforcement, unless major reforms are included. Schumer has repeatedly stated that Democrats will not provide the votes to proceed to the appropriations bill if the DHS funding bill is included, describing the current measure as woefully inadequate to rein in ICE abuses, particularly in the light of the recent fatal shootings in Minneapolis. And we will touch on that shooting. Apparently, there was another one as well today with a Border Patrol agent in Arizona, I believe,
Yeah,
actually.
I just saw that, heard about that
Yeah.
actually earlier. I wonder, apparently it's the person is not dead, confirmed dead, may be in critical condition. We
Yeah,
actually don't
critical
know too
condition.
much
Yep.
detail. Yeah, but they aren't dead, so good.
Glad they're
Hopefully they
still with
don't
us.
die. Yeah, hopefully
No,
they
yeah.
don't die. But I think it's really just starting to show how out of hand things are getting. I mean, I know a few of my conservative friends, they say like, well, where was all this outrage when Obama was deporting illegals by the millions? I'm like, one, this isn't
And you say that,
illegals.
and ah, I was waiting to get to that point. So I don't have it in the notes, but I have a breakdown of kind of like the differences in a sense of like what was going on between the two and why it was so different between Obama and Trump. Let me see if I can find it. But
I mean,
overall, it was basically stating kind of like what we were talking about. Obama was able to do it in targeted areas and working with the various states. The opposite side of that of the Trump administration is that it is more a blanket approach. They're going after all and everyone. It does not matter. So that is really the big differences from the two. And Trump is taking a more aggressive tone towards it, to where Obama, yes, he deported way more immigrants than Trump, but he did not go down that aggressive route in rhetoric and or in performance of the ICE agents when they were going through and gathering up these illegal immigrants. I mean, Obama was the deporter in chief, and you can get
the
those numbers
porter in
by,
chief is a
yeah, he's
pretty
the
funny
porter in
term.
chief, but like you can get those numbers without terrorizing. Um, Neighborhoods. Like that's what Obama was able to do. Like, yes, was there outcry from Democrats during the time? Yes, there was, but he was able to get that done without continued bloodshed. Which I did see that there was someone that was stating that around 50 individuals died during I believe it was either Obama's complete 8 years or his last 4 years or his first 4 years. One of those segments are all together.
Yeah.
50 individuals had passed away, and someone was like recanting that and saying like, here's the difference. You have 50 within almost 8 years. You have three within 2 weeks. So
And
it's
it's not
like,
even that. The bigger issue is that a lot of the how it worked under Biden and Obama is that there was still a large amount of illegals coming into the country across the border fairly often daily.
yep,
Whereas with Trump, that number has extremely dwindled. So Trump wanted to make that promise to his followers, like, "Oh, we're going to deport XYZ amount of people out of the country." And so when there's no one coming in and he wants to try to stay true to that promise, he's going to start going for whichever he can to get those numbers from away from the border. So far from the border, we're literally on the other side of the country in Minnesota. And a big thing about it is that a lot of those numbers that Obama and Biden both deported more people than Trump. The big reason why is because they would have people come across that border and they deport them the same day or the same week, and
yeah,
that is absolutely 100% deporting illegals because they
yeah,
illegally came in the country and you got them the same day and got rid of them. And so a lot of the deaths that were going on, like issues that were going on the border with the illegals. They weren't killing you American citizens for this, and then even going
yeah,
from there, it's the big question is like, it's not like these people like, Peretti and Renee Good, it's not like they were caught in the middle of trying to stop the ICE from deporting an illegal immigrant. It was just that, I mean, even with Peretti's case, the woman who was trying to like block from being, harassed or
yeah. He
physically
was just
assaulted.
protecting, like trying to protect that woman from the ICE agents. And I watched the
And
video
she's not
frame. Yeah,
and she's not even like an illegal criminal. She's
no,
not.
she's not. Nope. And I watched the
That
video frame by frame multiple times, and like you can clearly see they take the gun from him. It's on his right side holster where most people will have a gun at, on your right side. You see the one cop, he has all gray on. He come not cop, ICE agent. He comes in, grabs it and runs. And that's when you see Peretti, like in wrestling terms, like put his like if you're down on base, he puts his knee up to like check his,
in
check his
wrestling
pocket,
terms.
like a check his pocket, and then left hand side, ICE agent has the gun, boom, 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 and he's dead.
Yeah, no, it's
He
absurd
had
how much
no
might
legally owned the weapon, didn't even have it on him. So even if like there was no reason to shoot and kill him, he had no weapon on him. Yes, did he have a gun? He was a legally and carrying constituent, so it's not like he was a criminal for having the gun at all. So that whole narrative that's been spread, you can see them starting to walk that back. And even Trump just recently, he said, I believe in an interview before he has a speech later tonight, I believe, but he was saying that basically he shouldn't have been walking in with a gun, like walking into the protests and all that things with a gun. Where it's like, what happened to protecting Second Amendment rights?
I
It's like we're
mean,
seeing all of these things decay left and right. These values that conservatives have, that MAGA is greatly shape shifting into their own.
I'll add this because it's funny how history can repeat itself. Damn, I really do think conservatives. The majority of both political party ideological bases are very big on being wishy-washy when it comes to changing their opinion for when it's convenient for them. And we see conservatives always talk about don't tread on me, don't listen to the federal government. And then when their federal government is in power for them, they say, oh, you should just listen, just comply. And a big thing of the past of where this happened with gun rights with the Republicans is with Reagan when he was governor of California. He
Yeah,
this is I know people think California, they want to think liberal and Democrat, but everyone knows Reagan as a conservative. Heck, trickle down economics, one of the most famous Republican ideologies of our modern history, is all due to Reagan. And he this is around the time where there was like the Black Panthers were rising in
yeah,
California, and he actually passed laws that were made it more difficult to own weapons in California because he didn't like the Black Panthers showing up with guns. So it was just like, clearly whenever the ball starts getting rolling and it starts going into down a road that these conservatives don't like, and it's guns are involved, they have absolutely no issue taking those rights away when it's something they don't enjoy. And as we've even talked about, we mentioned a little bit earlier, before we started the episode. But another good comparison of this is how during the COVID era, how conservative, how like it was being conservatives to be like, oh, don't listen to the government, don't get the vaccine, don't be shut down, do whatever you want,
Yeah.
don't listen to them,
Yep.
like don't tread on me. And then this is coming around, they're saying, oh, just comply with the federal government, do what the federal government tells you to do, then you won't have any issues. Or if you die, you die. That's your fault for not complying.
Yep. It's
And
just
so it's
ridiculous.
really we've seen this complete flip flop in mentality over a few years, and it's just really telling at one, I would say it's where politics are in this country, but this is just normal for people. The moment they get power, any of those morals they have just get thrown
Out the
out the
window.
window, out the
Completely
window.
out the window,
Yeah.
completely out the window, and wanting to get into more of these proposed changes that the Democrats are looking for, they include prohibiting excessive force, requiring warrants for immigration arrest, particularly involving U.S. citizens, and then beefing up de-escalation training and mandatory body cams, preventing raids on sensitive locations like places of worship, hospitals, and schools, and even withdrawing federal agents from Minneapolis to halt what some describe as terrorizing American cities, which is exactly what it is. And
Yeah, basically.
yeah, Democrats plan to advance the other five bills relatively on bipartisan lines, and those other bills are the five spending bills, which cover defense, state and foreign operations, education and labor, transportation, and additional areas. Now, it's interesting that I say education because I hope we can all remember that Donald Trump wanted Lisa McMahon to be the first
Lisa
secretary to lose her job or something of that nature for getting rid of the Department of Education. But you can see that they have funded the Department of Education back to Biden levels. So
Yeah.
all of that talk, like as Muhammad was saying, those morals gone.
Yeah, literally like, oh, everything they stand for gone. It's
Yeah,
just
everything that they sold the MAGA population on is it's gone. And yeah, I mean, they probably have a sour mouth. I mean, most of them probably did not want this to happen. That's a generalization, of course. Um, but it was still something that was praised by many as giving back power to the states over education. But we're seeing that that's not going to happen anytime soon, as he is funding it just as a Democratic president would.
yeah. And I want to actually ask a question just for a little debate here.
Yeah.
They what do you think the federal government should have a larger, or like the role that the DOE that traditionally has and has had in the last few decades, where it has like a greater control over state curriculums and rights, where, or do you think it should be something that's more split up into per the states? Because we've seen that, an argument for against states focusing more on education for themselves would be,
Yeah.
well, some states may fall behind more than others, and we're still already seeing that. And so I just want to ask you, like, what do you think? Because I know you're more of a diehard Democrat than I am.
So I would say that I think that federal government, the way that I would picture it, I would picture it a board underneath the Secretary of Education. Sorry, the board would be of every Secretary of Education from every state being able to come together and put together a collective curriculum that makes sense for each state. Now I say each state because each state has to, they each have a different place in history and the things that they've done in history. So it's to make sure
Yeah.
that those things are brought to light, and also to make sure that the atrocities within America are brought to light as well. Like as we're seeing the Trump administration, they just removed, I believe, from Philadelphia. I forget what it was. He was either in one of the national parks or the zoo, something, but they removed one of the plaques that basically talked about slavery. So it's like we need to keep that information for our students because that's so important to know, because you need to know your
Oh,
history to be able
absolutely.
to better yourself and learn the mistakes of your ancestors so that you're able to not make those mistakes and live up to that true potential. Now, where the federal government comes in, they make sure that what is being learned in the classroom and what is actually being practically done, whether it's workforce for blue collar or white collar jobs, make sure that everything aligns with that area. Just in um, New Jersey, the organization that I work for, we just passed the bill. Well, we helped usher passed a bill for New Jersey to create a industry value credential list. So basically, a list containing all of the important credentials that industries value. So I would want something from that from the federal government, working with all of the states to make sure that we're covering all bases from blue collar to white collar, and that the curriculum is grounded in real history and not just inadequate nonsense. Like, yes, can there be a touch on the gay movement? Yes, because that is a pivotal point within US history. But is it something that needs to be delved into when it comes to gender, X, Y, and Z and all that stuff? No. Keep it generalized. Like, some of these things need to just be generalized, not deep down. Now, if students want to, that's where you go to your
I mean, that's what
secondary
electives are
education,
for, the
tertiary
specialty
education.
classes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole critical race theory thing that they were throwing around. That's really only for sorry, high, I think senior level and or like college level. Like when I was in high school, I learned about all of the genocides that happened throughout the world. So that was like pretty eye opening to me. So like classes like that are important because not only do you understand the rich history of people's tragedies, but you also understand the way to make things better and how to like reform yourself from the past. Basically, that's how I would kind of structure it. Basically, a board, the secretary at the main top of it, and then they are just collectively having a partnership on how to make curriculum geared towards white collar, blue collar jobs. So it's not just like we just have general education out here that's just teaching students about nonsense. And once they get to high school level, they're like, well, I don't have the skills to get me a job or X, Y, and Z. We need to make sure we prepare them for that. But I could go on a long tangent about that.
Also,
But
I know you
yeah,
work in
that's
education, so I wanted to ask
where I
you.
would stand.
But yeah, for the most part, I do agree. I want to look more into the topic, research more of the topic. But I will say that education in high school is definitely too general. Like
Yeah,
we shouldn't be relying on higher education or trade schools to have our students be ready to live life once they finish their school. I mean, you should be able to finish a high school degree and be ready to go out into the work field. Of course, specialization jobs, things like medicine or law or accounting or
or
something that
like
those
even
something further than that. Of course, these would
yeah,
require higher education, but there's a lot of jobs that you could, if properly taught or trained, you could just do them right as you finish high school. Because many people, we
yeah,
shouldn't be relying on people going to higher education, and we've already seen how much of a trap that can be. If you want to pursue that, that's great, but with how much the government has been backing that idea, we've seen prices skyrocketing, not because of the increases in quality of the class or the lessons, but because we've seen the administrative costs for these colleges and universities skyrocket because they know they're going to get that government money.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so, if I do definitely think that there should be more of a move to actually have a more specialized specialized teaching in the high schools across in America.
Yeah, and I like for me, it's like you don't get that specialized education unless you're like an AP student. So like I had
Yeah,
AP government my senior year, so um like that was a no-brainer for me. But it's like if you're not at that level, you don't have that exposure. But you should be able to have that exposure no matter where you're at in your level of intellect in the high school grade.
you don't
Um
know what you don't know. That's the case
right,
with a
yeah,
lot of
exactly.
people.
Exactly. And that was a great question, Muhammad. Great question. And then moving, want to continue on with it's still all running story with the ice bill and now hitting on the Minneapolis shooting. So we all know that the fatal shooting of Alex Jeffrey Peretti, I believe I'm saying that right, Muhammad.
You know as well as I do. I do think it's pretty.
Yeah. 37-year-old intensive care nurse at Minneapolis VA Medical Center was killed by a U.S. ICE agent on January 24th, 2026, which has escalated into a significant political and public controversy, making the second U.S. citizen killed by federal forces in Minnesota, which would be the third individual shot with the reporting of us with the individual in Arizona.
Man, do you know how ironic and painful it is that the federal government is murdering people and then the small government party says, "Well, if you just listen, this wouldn't be a problem." Like, I'd expect that out of the
Yeah,
Democrats, not the
same.
conservatives, you know?
Same, man. And the incident occurred near Nicollet Ave during an ICE raid targeting undocumented immigrants. Repretti, who had a no criminal record, reportedly intervened, blowing a whistle and recording agents' actions to alert the community. Actions described by some as humanitarian, but labeled by the Trump administration officials as militant interference. Kristi Noem actually stated he was a domestic terrorist. Mind you, that a
They
U.S.
said that
citizen
about
ICU
Renee
nurse.
Good too.
Yeah, said about Renee Good too. I just don't get it. I mean, I know that Trump had a 2-hour meeting with Kristi Noem and I forget the other guy's name. Is it Steve Whitlock? No, Lewandowski. I'm sorry, with Noam and Lewandowski, kind of about Kristi Noem's um, press
She's
over
been
the last few days and what she's been saying in the media. He has not been
if
too
she's been
fond of
able to
it.
s yeah, if she's been able to spin this all better, this is the funny and sad thing about Trump and his admin, specifically about Trump. He doesn't really care what you're doing, he just cares how the media portrays what you're
He
doing.
just
Like,
wants to look good.
I remember I was reading a autobiography, part of it regarding not an autobiography, a biography about the chief of staff of Reagan's first term, and it was like a woman, and she said that like what Reagan would dictate what he would do day to day on is he would read a newspaper, see what was on the news, and that's what he would really talk about and do for that day. He'd be like, "Well, clearly the country is mad about XYZ."
Yeah.
Like, dude, you can't rely on the media for what you should do as the president of the country of the United States of America.
Yeah,
You
no,
really can't allow your views, your ideologies, and your movements to be dictated by people who are meant to
you
sell
can't.
outrage and manufacture fake news. And yet we see this again. Hell, the guy who coined the term fake news more than anybody, he's the one that also allows fake news to control him more than anybody. It's kind of
That's the
ironic.
truth. And what's going on in Minneapolis, it's gonna be a deep dive that we're gonna do because um Muhammad, I don't know if you saw with the whole Social Security and Dodge, how Dodge employees illegally got some Social Security information and sent it over to some conservative firms, trying to link it to voter fraud. So yeah, I'm gonna touch on that. That's all ties into kind of why DHS is there in a certain sense, kind of like looking in between the lines here. And as all of this mounting backlash has begun to hit the Trump administration, Donald Trump has actually defended DHS Christie Noem, praising her as doing a very good job in rejecting calls for her resignation, even though many senators and House members and even unions are calling for her to be removed from office. I believe she may be the first person to get removed. Her and Pam Bondi are probably the top two individuals I could see leaving the administration very early. Um,
They're the two who I think have the highest chance of going to jail. So it would be interesting if they go to jail before he even finishes his term, because Pam's definitely going to go to jail over what's happening with Epstein, because she's breaking the law that Massey and Ro Khanna worked together to act, the
exactly.
Epstein Transparency Act. Whereas Christy
Yeah.
Noem is, well, if you can point the signs back to her of being the one who is kind of calling the shots and making the movements for this kind of culture to exist in ICE, you could easily just say, hey, she's the one who led the organization and US citizens were murdered unlawfully on her watch. Like, who else
Yep.
will we blame? Like, if we could blame the one who directly did it, or we can blame the one at the top who is the one promoting this kind of ideology.
Yeah. And
And
as
I think it'd be trickier to get Christie in jail, but Pam, bro, Pam is 100%
yeah,
going to jail.
100%. And a continuation as part of his damage control, you could say. Trump has reassigned Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino. And if anyone out there has seen the great movie, One Battle After Another, everyone was making memes about Gregory Bovino being Sean Penn's character, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Muhammad, if you have not seen that movie, highly recommend, please watch. Amazing movie. It's running in for the I think the Oscars. Yeah, I
Say the
believe
name
yeah,
of the
for the
movie again.
Oscars. One Battle After Another.
All right, I'll look into that. It does sound
Great,
like
great. It's on HBO Max. If you don't have that, I would happily give you my information so that you can watch that movie. It's so good. It's such a good movie. But yes, they were making funny memes about it too. Once you watch the movie, you'll be able to understand. And as a way to try to stabilize the situation, somehow try to stabilize the situation, Trump has deployed his border czar in place of Gregory Bovino and which is Tom Homan, which is kind of funny because they're putting in someone who accepted a $50,000 bribe in a kava bag. So how I don't understand is this is a worse individual to be there because he's been bribed before. He's a corrupt individual. It's been out there in the news. We've reported on it, and it's like who knows what's going to be really the next steps because he's supposed to be, I guess, the hammer for all of these ICE operations for how he's talked tough in the media. But we'll see what actually happens.
yeah.
Um, given his history of prioritizing deportations over community relations, supporters argue it's, necessary to restore order amid reports of local resistance to federal aids. And a Minnesota judge has summoned ICE leadership to court, threatening contempt charges for noncompliance with subpoenas related to the shootings, while Senator Rand Paul has demanded congressional testimony from ICE and CBP heads to probe the operation's oversight. Now, I do think they have a date for that. If I believe it's in March, I think. At least I know Chrissy Nome will be testifying, which
Yeah.
I cannot wait to watch that. I mean, she's going to be grilled by these senators, and it's going to be lovely to watch. And we hope you all can
I
join us
love
here
seeing those
for that.
clips of like Cash Patel, Pam Bondi. I think Chrissy actually did like a testimony once or twice, and
Oh yeah,
I remember one of them was it was Christy Noam actually. She was asked, "Have you ever deported a veteran of the United States Armed Forces?" And she was like, "No." And then I think it was Senator Chris Van Hollen. And he's like, "All right, well, on Zoom, we now have a veteran of the United States Armed Forces who you deported just half a year ago." And it's just like how it's like a script, man. It is literally like a TV show. Like, how can you write this? This is where the quote "reality is stranger than fiction" really comes into play.
no,
Like,
literally.
why do we have like Ice Barbie running this? Oh my God, South Park has done such a good job depicting her in a satirical manner.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And how do we have this woman running the organization that is all about handling the illegal immigration into this country?
Taxpayer funded organization too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, anything
Taxpayer
the federal
funded.
government does is based off the backs of our money. It's so frustrating.
Whether it's dropping bombs on innocents in Gaza or rounding up illegals and killing civilians, our money's going to something wrong.
Or funding ISIS, or
Yeah, or
funding
funding.
Hamas, or
Yeah.
funding Al Qaeda, or funding another Middle Eastern terrorist group off the
Yep.
backs of our money. Don't forget,
Yep.
guys,
Yep.
we funded Saddam Hussein. This isn't.
Yeah.
It's true. It's insane what they do with our money, and it happens so often.
No,
We just don't
it's
know about
very
everything.
insane. Exactly. It's very insane. And wanting to move on, but our listeners still keep in mind all of what we said about Minnesota because it's all rolling into one big topic. So now I'm going to be going into voter registration, suppression concerns, and GOP strategy. So, Texas hands over 18.4 million voter records to the Department of Justice. Texas has complied with the Trump administration demands by turning over, its complete voter registration roll to the United States Department of Justice. The data shared in late December 2025 includes sensitive identifying information such as social security numbers, driver's license details, and other personal identifiers. Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson's office described the handover as voluntary cooperation to help DOJ enforce federal election laws by identifying and purging ineligible voters, non-citizens, or deceased individuals. The move is part of a broader DOJ campaign launched in fall 2025, requesting voter rolls from all 50 states to support nationwide election integrity efforts. Texas is one of about 13 states that have agreed to share data. So, however, this is sparking a lot of backlash. DNC has labeled it as a big government power grab, and that's kind of what you're seeing going on with Minneapolis. Minneapolis was one of those states that were requested to send their information, and they are not sending their information. And what I've heard, what has been a condition tied to agents leaving Minnesota, is that they won't leave unless they have that voter data.
Those,
Basically, they
yeah.
want that voter data, because that's where it all is. They understand what's coming in 26, and they've understood this since September of last year. They've really understood it, and this is why you've had the Dodge employees getting the Social Security breach and getting all of that information and giving it to a conservative firm, which we are going to top on tap onto as well. um, but yeah,
Top
it's just a lot. Yeah, no, that was a pause moment right there.
pause.
Um,
Resume. Let's get back at it.
but yes, on that second piece, so you have Minnesota ICE, you have in Minneapolis, Minnesota, gosh, ICE in there for illegal immigrants, but the undertone is that they want that the Trump administration wants that voter data. And then from that whole voter data, you have Dodge and what they've done with the Social Security Administration in that breach, which I'm going to touch on too as well. Mohammed, did you want to add anything?
Not really. I actually did have something that popped into my mind, but it just slipped it. So while we got the ball rolling, let's just go on to the next topic. And if I remember it, I'll bring it back up.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, Dodge, Department of Government Efficiency, as we all know, and as they did not lead up to access sensitive Social Security Administration data, including Social Security numbers, names, addresses, and birth dates, primarily to detect alleged non citizen voting fraud. By cross referencing this information with voter registration lists, the Department of Homeland Security systematic alien verification for entitlements system. So, they're using the Social Security information that they got and cross-referencing it with the DHS software system. So Dodge aimed to identify mismatches indicating ineligible voters, such as non-citizens registered to vote. Dodge staffers shared a Social Security Administration data via unapproved channels, including encrypted files and third-party servers to generate reports on purported voter fraud. For instance, advisor Antonio Garcia's used sample Social Security Administration data to publicly claim thousands of non-citizens had voted, fueling narratives that influenced uh, fueling narratives that influenced Department of Justice's lawsuits against 25 states demanding access to voter rolls, including Social Security's, under the pretext of ensuring election integrity. So there have been updates to the SAVE system, which is that DHS system in the mid 2025, which allowed for partial Social Security number checks against Social Security account records, and enabling broader scans for alleged fraud. But however, this has really resulted in erroneous flagging of U.S. citizens due to data being mismatched, leading to wrongful voter purges and amplifying unsustainable claims of widespread voter fraud from non-citizens voting. Whistleblowers have revealed that Dodge employees have communicated with political advocacy groups like True to Vote to match the Social Security Administration data with the voter roll election data that they have for potential challenges. These efforts are to prioritize, promoting election fraud over evidence-based verification, with initial referrals dwindling to just 57 cases, many unsustained, highlighting the data's role in supporting partisan election narratives rather than genuine fraud detection. So realistically, there is the amount of voter fraud that Republicans like to state is only, I believe, 0.1% of actual fraud. That does not change the outcome of said elections. So it's very understanding that they just want to get this voter data to try to purchase as much as possible, because one, they're losing on the polling and with the public, and they're also losing the redistricting battle as well. They did get Republicans did get one win, because I believe that the not that I believe I read that the Virginia Supreme Court is not going to uphold the Virginia map that was originally passed. It was appealed, so Virginia is not going to be may not be a state that gets rid of their Republican seats and adds more to the Democrats. But we're seeing this all in their playbook, wanting to go into Minneapolis, get that voter data, use that voting data, third party outside organizations to try to purge the voting rolls as much as possible so that it's only condensed to the numbers that they want to try to win the election. And it's just not going to happen. This 2026 election is going to be a big blue wave on hopefully both sides of the chamber, the House and the Senate. So, we will see what's going on, and we'll be here to report it as well. And as all of these midterm battles are shaking up, Trump is visiting Iowa, which is, as we all know, the first state in the primary process and the general election process as well for president. He's focusing on affordability, the economy, energy prices, and farmer support, despite distractions from the Minneapolis shooting fallout. He's touting billions, including 900 million for Iowa farmers, where we know that U.S. farmers got way short change from the amount of money that they should have gotten in relief from his disastrous deals, his disastrous play that he's been doing with China.
Yeah, very disastrous to say the least. One thing that I want to really touch up on, regarding the last subject that we were on about voter fraud,
Yeah.
is both sides have individuals who commit voter fraud. There will be
Yeah.
Republican individuals and there will be Democratic individuals who commit voter fraud. The
Completely
bigger
agree.
issue is if you can prove that this is something that the establishment itself does on a larger scale basis, which people haven't been able to prove. There's this one there's this one quote I like that's very straightforward about this. Is like, if they really think I'm as guilty as they keep saying I am, then they present the evidence and bring it in a court of law. But they don't, because they can't, because they don't have that evidence. And it's just a very big matter of that. We see Republicans cry voter fraud constantly. I even know people in my life who said that Joe Biden shouldn't have been president because it was voter fraud. And then my counter to them is, well, Trump then in 2024, do you carry that same energy? Like, is every election fraudulent, or only the ones that you don't like how they ended up?
Right. And
And
apparently they're gonna look into how Elon knew like 4 hours ahead that the election was won by Trump. I know media does that as well, but looking at what the Democrats were saying, if they do win back the House, they will be investigating Elon Musk and how he knew way beforehand how this election was going to go. A lot of individuals think that Elon helped Trump steal the election. I'm not sure about that, truthfully, but I would like to see all the information that comes out from this past election, really.
it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think at this point, especially with how we've seen X really completely shadow ban people or outright ban material that's anti-Israel or
Yeah,
anti-Trump,
gonna be
it's
hitting on that next.
very, yeah, I think it's I'd love to see him come down from his high horse. And especially because what I want to add to go on top of that is we've seen Elon do a very big 180 from 5 years ago to now in terms of how he's supporting, who he's supporting, and all that. And it's clear it's just a situation of money follows power. And there's that House of Cards quote that I like, where Spacey, or I should say Frank Underwood, talks about how like money can't buy power,
Uh,
but money can
I
be
know it.
used.
Let me say the quote. Let me say the
Yeah,
quote.
go ahead, go ahead.
It's he's talking to Remy Danton, and he's like, to think he gave it up. I think it's he took the McMansion in Sarasota instead of the old stone building. The
Yeah,
McMansion in Sarasota is that, you know, in the context, Remy Dan is a lobbyist, so he's all about the money. He's all about making sure clients get what they want. Money, money, and money is mostly what lobbyists are geared towards. Where Frank is coming from that old stone building, where it's like if you build and consolidate power, it's a lot harder to dwindle. It takes a lot longer to dwindle than having money. Because yes, you can throw your money wherever, but if you're not giving your money purpose or using it to, you know,
using it
generate
properly.
power or like profit,
Yeah.
as Muhammad is saying, then you're basically doing nothing. The McMansion will rust and you will be forgotten about. But if you have that old stone power that Kevin Spacey was talking about, I actually love that quote and how he says it. It really gives you it really breaks down how you should vision certain things within politics. It should not be about, the money, the money, the money. And it also shouldn't be about consolidating power, but power is most important than money in politics. Like, yes, money runs everything. It's how you buy elections, advertisements, campaign, X, Y, and Z, but you still need to have that level of power to bring in momentum, movement, and change. All of those things don't have can happen with money, but they'll just dwindle away until someone else comes in new. That meaning of power has very different uh, side effects. It's a same side, two different sides of the same coin. Basically, it can be used the right way, can be used not the right way, and that's up to the individual. But yes, that is a great quote that good old Frank Underwood uh, stated. Great, great
And the
episode.
reason why I brought that up is because I think Elon is one of the few rich people who are actually knowing how to use their money for power. I mean, it's not easy to become the world's richest man. It's not easy to have the president literally regard you as like an advisor simply because of how wealthy you are and what position you are able to get yourself into. But
Yeah,
what I want to see is that once the Democrats take over, if he's going to again flip his hat to the other side, or if it's going to be like the house of cards is falling. Like you can't, like he just get caught with like he gets caught
it's
in
gonna
a
fall because
situation
this.
where he can't go to the other side again, and even with his money and even with his charisma, which I don't think he has much, but he does have much for those older folk.
The other side would
And
be like Democrats taking him in. Could
yeah,
you
I know.
imagine?
Exactly. I can imagine because the Democrats did take him in before Trump took him in. Elon was a pretty big Democrat supporter before this all. I mean, he was big about Elon was big about getting the COVID vax. He was like, "Hey, man, that's the science, man. I trust the science. I'm a
Well, he
scientist.
was
Yeah,
a
get the
big
COVID vax."
Democrat because he was getting all them subsidies from the damn government.
Exactly. He knows how to play the game pretty damn
Come
well.
on now. We we
Yeah, so
we,
that's what
we
I'm
know.
saying.
We
I
know.
want to see if after being such a staunch Trump supporter, if he'll once the Democrats gain power again, if he'll be able to successfully turn
I don't
heel.
think so. I think he'll
I
try
don't
to.
think so either.
I think he's going to try to revamp the Republican Party around JD Vance and Rubio, but it's hard when JD Vance is basically a stepchild of MAGA. Marco Rubio is someone removed from that, I would say, in this sense. He's more like a globally MAGA cap that he has on. They have to be able to take themselves away from that, and they can't. It's
Yeah.
been 8 years, two non-consecutive terms that MAGA has been at the forefront and almost ingrained in every Republican's head. Outside of those who are actually true conservatives and actually stay true to what conservative values are, and not just this America first quote unquote stances that have been taken. And I mean, this is what we're going to get into next about TikTok is another non-American first sentiment along. I mean, I know that it was Biden that started it, which I do not agree with. I don't think that TikTok should ever have been proposed to be banned to begin with, because it's gotten a lot worse ever since. I believe last
Oh
name
yeah.
is Larry Ellison, I believe.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Larry Ellison, the Ellison family are insane,
yeah,
super
very
Zionists.
insane. So into that TikTok data collection and censorship scandal. So TikTok updated its privacy policy, now collecting even more user data. The Wired article outlines three of the biggest changes: precise location tracking, GPS level data when location services are enabled, moving beyond approximate location, tracking of all AI features, interactions, including prompts, uploaded files, generated responses, and associated metadata such as timing, location, and usernames, an expanded advertising network that pulls off platform data from partners, websites. Websites that have been visited, purchases, apps downloaded, device IDs, hashed emails, phone numbers to enable more targeted ads both inside and outside the app. California Governor Gavin Newsom has launched a state investigation to TikTok over allegations it censors anti-Trump content. And now I can say this, that we were talking about this before we got on, the behind the ballot TikTok, the most recent post that I put out, has been sitting at 0 views and has
Yeah.
not seen a single view. And this was posted, I believe, Friday, actually. Friday or Saturday it was posted, and no views or nothing. I actually looked back at some of my videos and actually seen a loss of views. So there's this new platform that's out there. I think it's called Upscroll, I believe. It's actually made by a Palestinian individual.
I saw
Um,
that. I was thinking
so
about
I
that.
mean, I did just hop on and join it, and gonna see what it's like, but see if it's something that's viable in the future, and or for behind the ballot, given that we have been censored, unfortunately, by the
The man doesn't
Republicans.
like our message.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently. And just wanting to add in just a little bit of more of what we have here for you guys all, looking at just little legal headlines. DOJ pushed for Don Lemon's arrest warrant, but that's not going to end up happening. The Department of
I
Justice,
totally
yeah,
missed that. They were
yeah,
about
yeah,
to
dude.
arrest Don
Yeah, the
Lemon.
Department of Justice has withdrawn its request for an arrest warrant against former CNN anchor Don Lemon, related to an anti-ICE protest at City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. This was on the 19th, which is interesting that they were going to charge him for that, and everyone was having outcry when Donald Trump was getting charged with almost the same thing, even though he did incite those protesters from Jack Smith's testimony. It's very interesting, the compare and contrast within the last few weeks. I will say, I will definitely say.
Absolutely. I mean, man, hypocrisy is the name of the game. It really is.
No, it definitely is. And then, back to Pam Bondi. There was a letter that she had sent out, and the DOJ rejects claims of election rigging and blackmailing. Um, she sent a high profile letter to Tim Walz demanding changes to the state policies amid ICE surge and the Alex Paredes shooting fallout. The letter outlined three simple steps for cooperation: repealing sanctuary policies, ensuring detention facilities allow ICE interviews, and granting the DOJ Civil Rights Division to access to Minnesota's voter registration list to verify compliance with federal election laws. So,
I just want to take a quick second.
yeah,
Imagine if this is just like if they were trying to get the register, like, because imagine if Obama said, "Hey,
hey, now say it.
we want to get all the information on all the voters in every state, and if you don't give it to us, we're gonna use the federal government's power to give you problems." Just imagine how that would be taken by the Republicans.
You'd have this segment running for the next 3 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It would be like talked about on Fox News all the time. They'd be like, "Oh, well, he's going to do it with guns next." A big complaint that you hear about conservatives regarding the gun registry, which I agree, gun registries there should not be a federal gun registry. But the idea is like, well, oh, they're going to see who owns guns so they can go for those people first when the government wants to do something. I'm like, yeah, so they're going to get the voter records and they're going to see who votes Democrat and they're going to go to those people, do something about it first. Like the same logic can be applied. And it is I really want to see where this goes, but I am a little bit nervous. But I don't think the federal government's going to win out.
No, I don't think they're gonna win out either. And on top of all of that, with this stuff with ICE, this is, I don't know if you saw this in the notes. I thought this was like, I mean, we've been talking about how closely tied Israel is with the United States, Trump administration, and so forth. But I was like looking at the ICE tactics, and there's parallels to Israeli occupation forces, actually. In an in-depth piece in the Palestine Chronicle, it argues that ICE enforcement methods increasingly mirror those of Israeli occupation forces in the West Bank and Gaza, ranging from paramilitary-style operations and checkpoint-like controls to surveillance and use of force protocols. The analysis is claiming that direct training exchanges and technology transfers, such as companies like Palantir, which supports both ICE case management and Israeli targeting systems, enable ICE to treat U.S. communities with tactics refined against Palestinians. So what's going on in Israel and all the tactics that are being used are coming right over here into these states and being used on our own civilians.
I feel like to anybody who's been paying attention, this isn't a surprise.
This is not a surprise. I mean, even
Like,
someone
why do you think our police, NYPD, for example, Miami PD, another example, why do you think these people are going to Israel to train? It's all about collecting information for those people and also being able to learn how to oppress the masses. And they're like, oh, well, we'll test it out on the Palestinians. That's what war is a lot nowadays. I mean, even using the Ukraine war as an
You're not
example,
wrong, dude.
the big reason
Not
why
wrong.
America is so supportive of the Ukraine war has been, until Trump has been recently beginning cold feet on it, and is that we are able to practice drone, God, tongue twister right there. We're able to practice drone warfare without actually having to risk anything whatsoever. We're able to collect information, see how other combatants are fighting against it, see about counters to these means of attack. And then it's the same case for Israel. It's valuable intelligence if you are someone who wants to use that intelligence to do what they're doing. We want to be able to use drones for war. Yeah, we're going to promote drone warfare so we can learn more about it. We
Yeah.
want to be able to oppress masses and displace them. Yeah, we're going to promote displacing masses and oppressing them and see what we learn. It's, like I said, not a surprise if you really we're following with it. I mean, there is
No,
no
it's not a
other reason
surprise.
why American
Like,
police should be training with Israel. No,
no,
no
it's
reason.
not. Nope. I don't see the benefit of it. I don't see why we're using those tactics that they use to terrorize, demonize, and put down Gazans are being used and now trained into our the ICE curriculum for them to use on regular civilians. So that, I mean, that's probably why they were so quick to kill Peretti when they already took the gun off of him. That is something you usually would see in like Israel or something. It's very um, damning, the
Yeah,
images
I
that we're
agree.
seeing and how it's not being taken at face value what's going on across the board. I mean, we see the citizens being trampled on, being attacked, and Trump administration seems as if the only way they're going to back off is if they get voter data. So all of these legal threads and everything we've been talking about is all interconnected with the political crisis. The church protest ties directly to the anti-ICE activism in Minnesota. Bondi's letter escalates state federal tensions over voter access amid the shutdown fight, and the ICE Israel parallels add fuel to Democratic demands for investigations and reforms. I know there are a lot of people out there that are saying that what the Democrats are trying to have included into that DHS bill don't go far enough. But sometimes you need to put your foot through the door, your first foot through the door, so that your second foot can come right in and kick it down. So sometimes you just need to get that first piece of legislation in, work the room a little bit more, and then add some amendments to it, or just do a whole new bill. And as the landscape changes, it could become more opportunistic for Republicans to start to join Democrats on a lot of these bills. As we talked last week, there were a few bills that the Republicans were joining on for the Democrats. And we really hope that that continues to be the case, as they understand that MAGA is only relevant for another 2 years, and after that they're going to have to do some soul searching, and we'll see what that's going to be looking like. Who's their candidate going forward in 20 and 28, and what's the results in 26. But then until then, to our listeners, as always, thank you for tuning into Behind the Ballot, where we keep politics engaged, balanced, and informative. Stay curious, stay critical, and please stay involved. My name is Mikkel Jenkins, and until next time, keep looking beyond the headlines and behind the ballot.
Thank you all for listening. This is Muhammad Alec as well signing off. God bless America. God bless you all, and I hope